This is obviously an emotional game for you, given your background, your family's background. What are some of your memories watching U.S. Mexico World Cup qualifiers? Specifically, who was there? What was it like? What was going through your mind, through your heart?
Yeah, I remember when I was 10, 11 years old, I always remember just watching Mexico versus the U.S., every time they played. It was a special feeling, having my family besides me, just always rooting for the game. Honestly, it was just rooting for Mexico back then, and then now I'm representing the U.S. So it's very important that we go out there this next game and we go and get the win.
Next will be Brian Strauss.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Ricardo. Maybe following up on that a little bit, I assume you watched both the U.S. and Mexico growing up. I'm curious if you ever took note of Mexican Americans who might have been playing for the U.S. I mean, did you sort of follow that or have a favorite? Or was it maybe not something you really paid attention to in terms of where some of the U.S. guys might be from and their backgrounds?
Yeah, I feel like that was always, just a theme that I had to have in the back of my head, just always make sure I followed some of the Mexican-American players that, were back then playing. I remember that, there were some players that I used to just follow their paths and be able to just, put myself in those shoes because I knew one day I was going to make the same decision. So, it was a very important thing for me to be able to look out for. But at the end of the day, I know I had to take my own path, and I'm here with the U.S. And like I said, we have a very important game, and I want to make sure I represent the U.S. in a good way.
We'll go to Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael. Ricardo, following up on that question, kind of a theme here. I just wonder what it'll mean to you to be on the field for the anthems and to hear the Mexican anthem, to hear the American anthem. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a special feeling. It's going to be a special feeling having my family on the stands, having me with the U.S. jersey on. I feel like I'm going to get some goosebumps for sure. So, it's going to be that feeling where I'm going to be very motivated for the game and I'm going to be prepared for it. So, it's going to be good.
We'll go to Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Ricardo, for the time. We saw in Austin how many of your family were there. I'm curious as to how many of your family are going to be at this one.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be, a large part of my family. I feel like it's going to be at least 10 people on the stands. So, they're going to be supporting me and supporting the U.S.
Next will be Brian Sciaretta from American Soccer Now.
Thank you, Michael. Ricardo, in addition to yourself, we saw a bunch of other news with U.S. Soccer involving current and former FC Dallas players. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Jesus Ferreira and what it means to you and him to see how hard he's worked for the club and what he brings to this team. Then also, could you comment too on Mikey Varas getting the US U20 job and how he worked with you and helped in your development? Thank you.
Yeah, no, Jesus is always a player who can bring something to the table. I feel like he's played different positions. He can play as a 9, he can play as a 10. So he has that capability of just he has that vision, he has that finishing. So he's a special player with me on FC Dallas. We got some good chemistry, and bringing now that to the national team, I think is very special for the both of us. And also about Mikey, he was my coach in the youth. I had him as the first team coach. He's a great coach. I feel like he's going to have a good career, I would say, as a U20 coach, and he's going to bring good things to the federation.
Next will be Ivis Galarcep from SBI Soccer.
Ricardo, one aspect of your game I wanted to ask you about is your ability to press, and you seem to really kind of take joy in that part of the game. Not every striker likes to do that dirty work. What is it about that part of the game that kind of makes you just buy into that job? And a separate question regarding Mexican Americans who have this decision to make choosing between the countries. Some other players have obviously chosen Mexico, like David Ochoa and Julian Araujo. What would be your advice to a player who's kind of in that position? Obviously, it's personal for each individual, but if someone came to you with that decision and asked you, what's your biggest advice? What would be your biggest advice?
Yeah, when it comes to pressing on the field, I'm a player who likes to work hard. I like to work for my team. I like to run for my teammates. So when it comes to just the press, I feel like, it's a very important moment for us to win the ball up high, on the opponent's half. So I think that's very important for the team. and also, you know, I like to just work hard and recover the ball close to the goal. So I think that's a little more motivating for me as a striker. And also, just what was I saying?
Your advice.
My advice to any player who's, you know, in the Mexican American theme, I feel like I would say, you know, just follow your own path and also just make your decision with your heart. I feel like it's very important to just, you know, be able to have a feeling, a connection between you and that national team that you're playing for. So just follow your heart.
Next will be Mike Watala from Soccer America.
Thanks, Ricardo. Ricardo, as a forward, as a goal scorer growing up, and maybe even now, were there any particular forwards that you looked up to that you enjoyed watching? Maybe you know, tried to learn from watching them, and you know, from anywhere in the world. And were there any maybe Mexican national team players or U.S. national team players that you may have admired and watched?
There was definitely some Mexican national team players that, you know, I used to watch growing up. Players like Raul Jimenez, I used to always watch, you know, learn as a striker, just his movements, you know, his technique, his shooting skills, and things like that. But as of now, I feel like I watch, you know, players like Robert Lewandowski, Erling Haaland. You know, I'm always trying to learn as a forward, you know, because there's different types of forwards. So, you know, I'm always trying to learn something new every day.
Ronald Blum from the Associated Press.
If you were thinking last spring and summer about your decision over which country to play for, did you play through your mind and envision what it would be like walking out for qualifier between the U.S. and Mexico? And what went through your mind as you played that scene out?
Yeah, no, there was a talk that I had with my dad, you know, I had with my family in general, and, you know, I was just bringing everything to the table to them. I was talking about, you know, what it would be like walking out playing in the game versus Mexico. I feel like we've talked about how special it would be and how motivating that would be for me just to be able to, you know, be able to call up to the national team, be able to play in that game. So, you know, that made me work harder as a player, just, you know, staying humble and always working hard.
Next will be Charlie Bone from MLS Soccer.
Hey, Ricardo. Hey, Michael. Thank you guys both. Ricardo, you won your spot, you know, a few months ago when you first got your call up, but it's one thing to sort of come first in a crowded field of strikers and get opportunities, and that's another to be basically the only true number 9 that's been called into this camp. And Greg has said that he plans to give you most of the minutes and kind of ride your form and depend on you. I wonder what that feels like for you. Is that a different vibe coming into this camp, and how do you face that?
Yeah, I feel like as a national team player, you always have to prove yourself. You know, you don't have a spot saved for the team. You know, you don't have a starting spot that's always going to be there for you. I feel like every day you get an opportunity, you have to take that opportunity and be able to show yourself out. You know, so I feel like I've been doing that, and you know, just being able to be called up, not only as a true striker, but I feel like, you know, I have Jesus behind me, who's also a good player, who's also just pushing me to be better, and I'm pushing him to be better. So, you know, it's always that competition between the teammates that are going to make each other better.
We'll go to Daniel Nora from Univision.
Thank you, Michael. Ricardo, obviamente en estos partidos todo el mundo siente que son más de 3 puntos los que están en juego, que hay algo más. ¿Qué es ese algo más que está en juego? ¿Cómo se lo explicarías a la gente? ¿Por qué es tan importante que Estados Unidos siempre le gane a México? Y lo otro que te quiero preguntar muy corto, los dos pasados fueron juegos que, más allá de que se jugaron en Estados Unidos, había mayoría de público mexicano. El viernes no va a ser así. ¿Qué tan importante será eso para ustedes?
No, creo que no nomás son los 3 puntos que estamos jugando. Creo que es un partido de cualificatorias para la Copa Mundial. Obviamente estamos aquí en casa, tenemos que ganar todos los juegos que se puedan ganar aquí en casa. Creo que eso es importante. Y no, creo que es importante también la mayoría de los fanáticos que sean americanos. Como has dicho, creo que en cualquier otro partido siempre han sido la mayoría mexicanos. Creo que va a ser importante para nosotros para tener el apoyo de los fanáticos y salir y tener el mejor juego que sea posible.
We'll go to Oscar Gallardo from ESPN Mexico.
Thanks. Hola, Ricardo. Buenas tardes. Me gustaría conocer tu punto de vista en este momento. Si crees que recientemente tomaste la mejor decisión de representar a los Estados Unidos, recordando el caso de algunos mexicoamericanos que fueron llamados por México y que hoy no figuran, como Jonah González. ¿Crees que con Estados Unidos puedas tener mejores oportunidades con tu selección o de jugar en Europa? Gracias.
No, creo que hasta el momento sí he tomado la mejor decisión. Creo que la Federación de Estados Unidos siempre ha estado ahí para apoyarme desde que yo estaba en desde que tenía 13, 14 años, siempre han estado ahí apoyándome. Creo que me han dado las oportunidades de estar donde estoy ahorita. La verdad sí es la mejor decisión que he tomado en el momento.
We'll go to Sophie Nicolau.
Hi, Ricardo. Just wondering, you've made such an incredible impact. It's making waves in the UK and Europe as well, of course, with your performances. Who are your influences and who are you looking at in terms of mentors right now in your career with everything that is in front of you in terms of, the potential that you have to kind of really make waves in football?
Yeah, no, there's conversations that I have, with Coach Greg. I have conversations with my teammates here in the national team, players like Christian Pulisic, players like Weston McKennie, who I always try to take advice from because, they're in that place in Europe, just playing at the highest level of soccer. So those are players that I always try to talk to and just get some advice from them. And also just my family and my agent, I think they're very important for me to just be able to keep my mind in what's next and not focus on the future.